We have a really interesting panel here for you today to give you a little bit of a background of the ins and outs of what's happening in the music industry, what's changing. And I have to say, Fred, it's more interesting than it's ever been, don't you think?
Much more so, yes.
We have on the panel, obviously Björn, who's still here, represents the musicians, not any musicians, and it's extraordinary, Björn, to see you after this illustrious career to engage at the frontier of technology, both in live and with respect to data, a pretty dry subject, but a very important subject for artists. Right. We have next to him Max Ciocciola, who is the CEO and founder of Music's Match, the biggest provider of lyrics in the world, who provide the lyrics that you find on Spotify, on Apple Music, on Amazon, and on YouTube. Mike Weissman is the CEO of SoundCloud. He has an illustrious career, many different stages, Universal, IAC, Vimeo, and then SoundCloud, which he'll talk to us about. Ole Obermann, a former colleague of mine, a wonderful executive who's made it through Sony, then Chief Digital Officer of Warner Music, and now heads music at TikTok, which is really fascinating. And Fred, my co-creator of this panel, nice, who actually introduced Spotify to us at Sony. He's with Rain, one of the most illustrious banks in media today, and it's a real honor and pleasure to be talking to this group here today. I want to start with you, Ole, and TikTok. We heard from this morning about TikTok a little bit in the future trends. TikTok has really dramatically changed music. And can you explain to us a little bit what TikTok's influence on music is today?
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. I think a good place to start is the mission of TikTok is to inspire creativity, which is the creation side. So how do we make it as easy and almost unthreatening as possible for anybody to create music or a short form video or the combination of a video with music in TikTok. And then on the demand side, it is inspire joy. So, and that's where our For You feed comes into play. So any of you who use TikTok know every single person in the app is getting a different feed, and it is entirely personalized to what your interests are. And so I think why that matters so much to music is that we've created a place where there's zero friction for a well-established or a totally unknown artist or creator to get their music into TikTok, and then we do a really good job of matching that music to the right audience through the For You feed. So if you think about what radio used to do in the day, they had a playlist of 50 songs and they kept playing them, hopefully to a fairly targeted audience. We're playing to 1 billion people with 100 million songs, hopefully in a hyper-targeted way, and that's why it works.
Radio is out, TikTok is in. I think the stat is 13 of 14 #1 hits in the Billboard 100 came through viral trends on TikTok. I think you're being modest.
Yeah.
You created Lizzo, you created many of these artists.
Together with our label partners and the artists.
Now, Theo Cohen, who runs music at YouTube, said that TikTok was the worst thing that could happen to the music industry. Yeah. That it really killed the music industry with these short-form little snippets. The social media was everything the artists had to do instead of composing like you did, Björn, in your room, and that the songs were short. What do you say about that, Björn, about short-form killing the format?
I think it's working. It's taking young people into the world of music, of catalogs from all decades. I've been on TikTok myself, actually. I've done a few. I think this fact that there is a library of songs for young people and others to explore and then do something of, and for others to then discover. And this song sounds interesting, and then they go, and then they want to hear the full song. So I think it's, I don't like the short form as such. I think it's not satisfying to listen to half a minute of a song. You want to hear the whole song. But as, an entrance, as a portal into finding new music, I think TikTok works very well.
Can we still have Led Zeppelins?
And it's worth noting Leor Cohen copied TikTok and released shorts after that. You know, there's a place for it.
He's a good friend, but they are very focused on shorts,
Yeah.
which is the same service as TikTok.
Also, I think you mentioned to me, Ole, the competition you did with Simon Cowell, and that TikTok really is a place for creativity.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we've done a program which is actually still running. It's called STEM Drop. So Simon Cowell, together with Max Martin, who's a very well-known songwriter, came to us, and Max had written a song called Red Lights, and rather than give it to an artist like The Weeknd, it had a real Weeknd sound to it, the way that he wrote it, he said, why don't we put this in STEM format into TikTok and let the TikTok creator community do whatever they want to do with it. And we've had actually 20 billion views of the hashtag, which is one of the biggest we've had. And we've had thousands of songs that have been submitted. We've had Afrobeats, we've had Latin, we've had country, we've had pop, we've had EDM. I mean, any version of this that you can imagine has come back. And they all have a commonality in that some of the lyrics are the same, some of the instrumentation is the same, but at the same time, you can listen to these songs and almost think they have nothing to do with one another. And I think that's an amazing thing for creators and for the music industry and for music fans. You know, why should an amazing song, you wrote amazing songs, isn't it the biggest form of flattery if thousands of people or millions of people want to put their fingerprints on it and express their fandom by creating their version of it?
As long as they don't change melody and lyric.
Sure. Sure. No, I agree. Like, you can get into the debate about how much, you know, when is it too much?
Yeah.
But I think that's how young people want to be fans of music, is they want to, you know, they want to interact with it.
Yeah.
Mike, you have a big music platform that's quite different from Spotify and Apple Music.
Yes.
Can you explain to us how it differs and what makes it relevant today?
Yeah, so SoundCloud we think of as the artist-friendly, artist-first music platform. And what I mean by that is we are there to enable the connection between a fan and an artist. And that manifests itself largely in the fact that SoundCloud is about emerging music. So what's happening in 3 years in mainstream music is happening on SoundCloud now. Because we allow largely for users to upload music of any type, it doesn't need to go through a record label, it doesn't need to go through an aggregator, it can be directly uploaded. And so we're the net beneficiary of this boom in music creativity because artists can directly upload, connect with a fan, get feedback, and make more music from there.
So, are you signing artists?
We're not signing artists in the traditional sense. We provide a series of tools and services and support to help artists at each stage of their career. At certain points, we provide them technology. Certain points, we provide them marketing support. Certain times, we provide money to help those artists actually grow and build their careers. And if they ultimately get signed by a record label, that's fantastic. It's a sign of success. But we want to continue to participate with the artist as long as possible.
Now, we hear there are 100,000 new tracks being uploaded to Spotify alone every day.
Yes.
Every day, 100,000 new tracks.
Yes.
How many is it on SoundCloud? Is it even more?
We added last year an entire Spotify to our catalog. So we added 75 million tracks to SoundCloud last year alone. And that's because over the last 2 years, and partially because of the pandemic, you had a lot of musicians go off tour. The ability to now create a song on your mobile phone from a desktop computer, Bjorn showed this, songwriters collaborating, not typically in a studio together or even in the same city, but around the world. The amount of music being created today is just astonishing. And we're the net beneficiary of that because we get the tracks right away from those creators just at the moment of creation.
Unbelievable. And Max, you're providing the lyrics for those songs. Can you explain a little bit, because you have a very interesting crowdsourced process of how you do that?
13 years ago, we came the idea, we found out, lyrics is so far the most searched ever term on Google, more than any other things.
More than?
Sex,
really?
Any other things.
Oh, that's very flattering.
Check on your own.
Very flattering to hear that.
There are billions of people. How many of you are currently or did search lyrics?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the past experience was essentially like 10 years ago, people were Googling lyrics and entering into these websites, which were mostly illegal. No one was paying. There were websites with billions of unique visitors every month, and they were not giving any credit to people like Bjorn. They were not paying anyone. We found out that this couldn't work. We came to the idea of Musicsmatch to be a platform to represent songwriter and music publisher, aggregate the lyrics through a kind of a Wikipedia community. There are currently 70 million people join Musicsmatch platform, and to distribute this content across all the DSP. We found out that people, couldn't live without the lyrics. The experience right now, I hope you agree, when you play a song on Spotify or on Apple Music, it's completely, different than just playing. So literally, what I think we've been able to, of course, thanks to the industry, the songwriter, the publisher, to build a UI, a user interface for music. Music before was like just putting your phone in your pocket, going for a run. Now it's very visual.
So Björn, do you think there's anything, what percentage of 100,000 songs a day can be any good?
I don't know. I only know that Benny and I worked very hard to be able to recognize garbage. And we threw away like 95% of everything we wrote. We wrote 15 songs a year on average. So I wonder, of those 100 million songs, how many people have thrown away the garbage?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Garbage.
Fred, you've been a huge observer of the music industry for many years, and we've seen Lucian Grange from Universal come out with a memo to staff 2 days ago. What do you think is going to happen in terms of the labels in reaction to this avalanche of music? Where do you see that all going?
Well, we could spend a long time talking about that, but in summary, the models that you and I came up with, quite frankly, in distributing the royalties that are earned on Spotify and Apple and SoundCloud and the DSPs, we came up with it. It was a model that we came up with 15 years ago. It kind of works. It doesn't mean it can't get better. And so the payout isn't necessarily fair to everybody. I just worry that the chairman of the largest record company in the world is wanting to dictate that versus the artist community and the DSP. Who should be the main spokesperson if this is going to evolve? So I'm cautious about that. But of course, just because we came up with it 15 years ago doesn't mean it's the way it should work still today. It could evolve.
Mike, you've been quite vocal about usage versus user-based pricing. Maybe you can explain a little bit to people here, also those that aren't in the music industry, what that difference means.
Yes, simplistically, the way we think music streaming should work is the artist you listen to and the money you pay should go to the artist you listen to. Music streaming services don't work like that today. There's the money you pay, goes into a pool that's then divvied up based on market share of streams. And so there's almost a matching, and a lot happens in that matching. You lose royalties, it becomes complex. And so at SoundCloud, we've designed a model called fan-powered. Fan-powered royalties is the way we pay out a lot of our artists. So when I listen to a track, anyone from some of the major label artists that we work with, all the way to independent artists, my money directly goes from my paid streaming and from my ad-supported streaming to those artists. It's actually simplistically how you think music services should work. So we're actually going back to that core and creating that direct fan and artist connection.
When I used to buy a CD, 100% of that money went to the artist of that CD.
Absolutely.
It doesn't work that way at Spotify and elsewhere.
It's as though actually if you bought a CD and you had to buy 10 other CDs of other people that you don't like.
Correct.
That's what it's like.
Right, so if I really love listening to Drake or Billie Eilish, my money should go to Drake and Billie Eilish. It doesn't necessarily need to go to the 10 other acts that have a lot of market share in that month.
Or ABBA.
The model we really liked is you wanted one song and you had to buy a whole album. That's what we really like. Having said that, the music industry,
got us in
the
trouble,
music industry has got us in trouble, and Steve Jobs ended that forever. And we're The business is now back at $26 billion, which is higher than it ever was. It went from 24, I think, to 14, back to 26, and it's still growing. Ola, what do you think about usage-based pricing? Is that the way forward? You've been with Sony, you've been with Warner.
Yeah, I think what the SoundCloud guys are doing is the right way to go. You know, the artist should be paid if they're listened to, as opposed to be pooled with everybody else. I think that's right.
And the 800-pound gorilla in the room is, will TikTok do their own music service?
Yeah. We have a music service that is live in Brazil, Indonesia, and India. We're kind of dipping a toe in the water right now. We do think discovery happens on TikTok, and then full-length listening right now happens on all the other platforms. We'd like to be a place where people listen to the song after they discover it on TikTok. And I think 3, 5, 10 years from now, we'll be talking as much about you're listening to the full-length song in Spotify or any of the other services, and then you go create a short-form video or create something based on that song, as much as you'll be talking about you discovered the song in a short-form video on TikTok, and then you went and listened to the full-length song. It's going to go both ways in the future.
Consumption and creation coming together.
Yeah, I think so.
That's a new future for the industry.
Yeah.
Creation is also, there's a lot of companies that we see, startups that come to us that say they can create music with artificial intelligence. Max, you've worked a lot with artificial intelligence with Music Match. Maybe you can explain what it means for the lyrics.
I think that the best exploitation when it's about AI currently, you may be aware of, everyone is talking about ChatGPT and all these happens with images and text. And lyrics are text. So what we do is we do machine learning through the lyrics. We can get the feeling of a song, the mood. We know if you like a certain song based on the lyrics. And we do plenty of, you can extract plenty of data through lyrics. But when it's back about AI, the vision everyone is talking about, can machine build from scratch? Well, it does already. ChatGPT can build from scratch lyrics, even music. I'm not particularly, bullish about that because, this will create, definitely an inflation of music. I know you're very good at piano, Thomas. I'm really bad, but this means that my AI can build some music, and I don't think, my AI can stay on TikTok or SoundCloud, and I can become, as big. So we should think about AI as helpful tools for artists, tools in the same way I think all of us are using. But I'm not bullish about, an AI being in the Billboard 100.
If ChatGPT creates a lyric, who owns
That's a good
copyright?
point. That's a good point because,
I don't know the answer.
The IP still, there's a matter of IP related to AI, which is still unclear, because as long as you train an AI with all the lyrics, who tells us that these lyrics has been written based and inspired by Bjorn?
That is a very difficult problem.
That is a difficult,
It needs
still
to be
unclear.
discussed. But don't you think that an AI will be able to write better music than a lot of those 100,000 million songs a day?
But this could happen right now, but it's not happening because I think it's all about the fans. Do you know any fans or anyone here that loves a song built on AI better than anyone? I haven't seen so far.
No, but it will happen.
It will happen.
I think it can happen already right now.
I'm afraid it will happen.
We see a lot of production music already taken over by this.
Yes.
We see
Production,
some companies splash music loudly. Fred, have you seen any examples of AI-generated music that you felt you'd get behind as an investor?
Not yet, but I know it will happen. Not yet. It will definitely happen the same way he tours without touring. I mean, these things will happen.
Yes. Yeah.
Do we know if any of the 100,000 are, how many are AI-generated? Mike, do you have any sense?
The majority, I'd say 99.9% are not AI generated. But there is becoming more and more of a fine line between what's human creatively designed and built as music and what's created in a digital studio. So most of the songs, I think it's stat I've heard, is 90% of songs right now don't use physical instruments, They're using beats and samples and sounds mixed and matched on audio workstations and through editing tools. And so you can then see a next logical step to that is have the AI create the song for you. So it's not far off from saying some portion of those 100,000 songs will really be actually AI created. I think the struggle is when the human involvement is removed entirely. If it's AI that you're using to help you in the creative process, that's fantastic. It's moving you further along your journey. But once the AI actually starts doing it on its own, that's where it gets to the point of being scary, frankly.
I can't wait for ChatGPT to show up at the Grammys and say, I thank my mother and my father, and shedding a tear. Talking about platforms and rights, signing rights, Fred, we've seen the value of Spotify decline dramatically. Last year, Spotify was about the same value as Universal Music, $40 billion. Universal is since $45 billion, and Spotify is $15 billion. Spotify is losing $250 million a quarter. Universal is making $450 million a quarter. Where do you think long-term the value is going to be? Is it going to be with the labels, the rights holders, the publishers, or is it with TikTok, or is it with Spotify, Apple?
Listen, I'm a believer that all boats rise. If you go back to your example 15 years ago, 10 years ago, they were all worth pittance of what they're worth now. Some of these are, Spotify stock is affected by macro environments as much as they are by the success of the business itself. But companies need to evolve, right? And Spotify's same product that was out 15 years ago, I believe and bet on it will evolve and its value will skyrocket. That'll help everybody else's value skyrocket. It's all interrelated, and they will all rise, at least for the foreseeable future, no question.
Ola, do you have a view, publisher against labels, against platforms?
Artist. I would say artists. I mean, not that individual artists will be valued at billions. Maybe some will, but I think we've seen this trend for many years, and it's not going to slow down. That the artists are taking more control, more power. They're building artist brands in ways that maybe they didn't in the past. So I think that's a big trend that we'll continue to see.
Direct. So are you thinking intermediaries will be shut out more?
Not necessarily. I do think that artists have more options, and some of them are getting, braver and going on their own and almost acting as a label and an artist services company for themselves. So I think the labels still have a big seat, the aggregators, everyone's got a big seat at the table, but the importance of the artist is growing.
Mike, would you agree with this, or?
I agree with a large portion of that. The thing I'd add is Spotify, I think, was licensed in the US in 2011, so it's been almost over a decade. That model is fantastic. For $10 a month, you get access to the world's library of music at your fingertips. I think that model has to evolve, and I think you're probably seeing some of that in manifesting in Spotify's stock price, because that model needs to go to the next generation. I do think the next 10 years, the prior 10 years are about access to music over streaming. The next 10 years are about the relationship with the artist. And how do you actually build up that artist and fan connection that is there in live events? It's there when you bring people together to listen to music that's been missing in digital so far.
And maybe also related to fandom, and how do you monetize fandom and monetize those incredible relationships? I mean, Björn, you're amazing at bringing people to the venue. We tried with live streaming to bring more people and connect with them. It's an amazing opportunity. But we're still waiting for more sophisticated fan clubs, don't you think?
Yeah, and also I think what we've done with the ABBA catalog is to try and see what new territories, where can you go, what new things can you invent with the songs as a foundation. And the first thing, of course, was Mamma Mia, which was going in a totally different direction, but with the help of a song catalog. And then Voyage is another one. And I think that more artists and songwriters should explore their catalogs in other areas than just streaming and just playing live. And I think that more people will do so as well.
And it sort of brings us to this fan relationship, brings us also to this whole blockchain thing. Web3 and music has been such a hot topic. We've seen a lot of companies trying to solve the licensing issues and believing that a decentralized system could be more efficient at allocating royalties, at making people pay for music. Fred, what do you say about all that after all the hype of the last years?
I think if we go back and we look at Bjorn's presentation, we went from vinyl to cassette to CD to downloads to streaming. I do think the next great revolution we're going to see is direct artist to fan distribution and monetization, not going through a middle person like a Spotify or an Apple or even a SoundCloud. It's going to be direct. Blockchain will help allow that and facilitate that. We see the early signs of it now in a company like Audius and these types, but it's still very early days, but that's going to be incredibly healthy for the artists, for the fans, to be able to have direct, you can choose to price your music the way you want to. Your fans can have a direct relationship with the artists. All the information will be by the artists. It's going to be revolutionary. We're in the early stages of that now, and blockchain will help that.
What do you think about that, Mike? Do we not need a platform to aggregate and allow you to make playlists and stuff like that? Don't we have to have someone in the middle, or is a direct relationship possible?
I think the direct relationship is possible, but until there's a very compelling consumer proposition around it, Web3 is just going to be very esoteric. It's going to be a lot of speculation and discussion around the tokenization of music. And I think the challenge so far with all the Web3 music platforms that have launched is it's confusing, it's hard to use. You have to sign in with a wallet and do all these other sort of things to get into the music. But streaming services have made it incredibly easy to search, discover, build a playlist, get a catalog going, find any song you want. And so you have to have those easy consumer models, consumer products on top of the Web3.
It doesn't have to be in lieu of. It could be, it's an addition to. It's not either or. Both.
Yes. Ole, any comments on that?
Largely agree with Fred. I think it's very early days. I think it solves the issue of rights management and accurate payments. And that's something we all want to solve. So there's a huge need for it, but I think it's going to take a long time. We're very early days.
Yeah, I know how much mentors have meant in my life, and the great A&R people that I've had the privilege of working with. So I know as an artist you feel vulnerable, you are uncertain, you sometimes have low self-esteem and all of that. So you need those people you can trust around you. And for that to happen, you have to sort of, you cannot go direct to the fan if you, unless you're very certain of yourself and unless you know exactly what to do, and very few artists do.
What do you think, Max? Is any of the administration of the rights for the lyrics possible in a decentralized blockchain, or does it need an entity to do it?
I think, blockchain, if we look as a technical platform, could be massively useful, as a block, for building and rebuilding the supply chain, and tracking. So I definitely am very bullish. I do agree that the direct-to-fan model will have a lot of impact. Certainly, 1 year ago, we were all talking about NFT and music, that this would have dramatically changed. This didn't happen, so we should not confuse blockchain when it's about, this.
We haven't talked about the metaverse yet.
Exactly.
Thank
you
goodness.
did. So I think we'll have impact, but not definitely in the way we're seeing right now, but we'll see more and more impact.
Last topic, the value of rights. We've seen Hypnosis raise $1 billion. We've seen, Primary Wave raise $2 billion. We've seen Sting's catalog go to UMG for $300 million. We've seen Justin Bieber, Justin Timberlake, a whole bunch of catalogs trade value for enormous price tags. What do you think, Fred? Are we at the end of that, or is that still...
we're
still
early days still. We're right in the middle. There's so much capital. It's incredibly valuable. We are right in the middle of this, and it's for the next generation to be great. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can see it now. There's a recession coming. Will the streaming go down? No, it just goes on. It is the asset that is less prone to recessions of all assets, I think, is music.
It reminds me when I was at Walmart and they would always want my prices to come down, but there was only one place to get Michael Jackson. It was Sony Music. Whereas you could get your, pickles from many places.
The price of art's going to go up. I mean, it's music, art, content is all going to go up.
So we're feeling bullish about the music industry, I think. And I think what this panel shows in many ways is innovation is everywhere still in music. Transformation continues dramatically, whether it's on the back end with the rights, whether it's on new rights with the lyrics, whether it's new platforms that go deeper with artists and fans like SoundCloud, or what you guys have done all is truly spectacular, I think, with TikTok. So excited to be part of this ongoing journey, and thank you all for coming here. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
I hope you found the presentation interesting.
Thank you.